As a mental health professional, probably America's most famous mental health professional, what is your diagnosis of Donald Trump, the President of the United States?
What do you mean maybe the most? Who would be
Definitely
second?
the most famous. Oh, I see. I've just diagnosed you as a narcissist is really what's happening.
I was just wondering who's second. There isn't another show. I don't
Who
know
is second? Who would be second?
Yeah, see, there you
Dr.
go.
Drew, probably, I guess. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
But what is your diagnosis of Donald Trump?
Well, I've known Trump for a long time.
Right.
And I think people can make up their own minds about whether he's diagnosable or not. Mm-hmm. But I would say we can probably all agree that he lacks diplomacy.
Has he offered you a position in his cabinet of any kind?
No.
He has not. He's not reached out and said you could be Surgeon General?
No.
Because I saw they gave it to another guy.
Yeah, they gave it to another guy.
Yeah. Nothing like that, huh?
I think, wouldn't you agree he lacks diplomacy?
Yes, I would agree.
Would you agree that he has an impulse control problem?
Yes, I absolutely would agree with that.
Would you agree that he thinks people see things from only his point of view?
Well, I think he would like it that way, yeah. Sure.
And I think if you go look up certain personality disorders, you might see some of those things appear.
I also feel like in a way you described me.
But, I can't diagnose him because I haven't done the proper evaluations of
right,
it.
Right.
It would be irresponsible.
That would be a hell of a 17th season, though, wouldn't it?
But that would be improper to diagnose without going through the steps, but I think there would be some things on the short list.
It's a psychological interview that you're doing, too. You're sort of being my psychiatrist.
You've been called every name in the book. Why do you subject yourself to this? What do you say to yourself when the crowds aren't cheering? What is the hardest, darkest moment? There's an addiction to revenge. Nobody would fault you. You say, it ends here. It ends with me.
Our country's in tremendous danger of World War III, and I don't think I've ever said this on air before. I'm honored to be with you. Let me just say, it's great. Look at the logo. I've seen that sucker a long time.
Yeah. You look well.
I feel good.
Do you?
I feel good. No pressure.
Yeah.
It's nice to lead a life of no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah.
Corruption surrounded by corrupt judges and corrupt politicians. Other than that, there's no pressure.
You and I talked the other night, and I work in trial sciences for a lot of my career, and so I have a particular interest in the dynamics of the trial setting.
It was interesting when you called the other day about doing an interview. A lot of people want to do interviews, and I don't just agree to them very easily. But I've always had great respect for you. I watch your show, some of the real good ones, and some of the less intellectual ones, and that's okay too. But it's always been, you've always been very special. And I knew that you were, in some form, very much involved with trials. And I found it to be very interesting that you would take this up. It's a very important thing.
Well, I wanted to, and I know that there was some news coming out of Georgia today, there was some news coming out of Florida today, that they're stepping back from this. And
very good news.
I called for the other day, and I don't know if you saw it, but on Merritt Street Media, where I now do my show, I called for President Biden to stop all of this now. And of course, a lot of people said, oh, he can't stop it, it's a state case. Well, okay, that's an explanation for stupid people, but for people that understand how this works behind the scenes and all, I say the same thing. They need to stop this. They need to stop pursuing you. Since you started your campaign in 2015 to run for office, there have been so many attempts to get you off the board even before you started your campaign. Then once you were in office, 2 impeachment opportunities, they changed the rules to try to make it high crimes and misdemeanors if there were business conflicts, and in this case,
Never ends.
It seems to be never ending, and that is a distraction to you. And I really wonder how that affects you. What do you say to yourself about that? Because it seems to never be ending.
It's a never-ending thing. There's a term that I know you've heard many times. It's called Trump derangement syndrome, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. In one way, we drive them totally crazy because we're doing the right thing. You wonder, why would somebody want to have open borders where people are coming in from jails, prisons, where they're coming in from mental institutions, and as you know better than anyone else. They're coming in, they're releasing the people all over the world, not just South America, from mental institutions and jails and prisons, and they're terrorists coming in by the thousands. They're pouring into our country. And who would allow this? You know, it's common sense, not a conservative thing. If they would devote that same skill and talent to making America great again, it would really be a wonderful thing. But in the meantime, we're beating them. You know, you mentioned I got impeached twice, and I won twice very easily, very quickly. We had great support from the Republican Party. I have all these cases all my life. I didn't have any problem, and all of a sudden, within a matter of months, I end up with 4 cases. Now, of course, it's from the White House and the Department of Justice. They totally control the state case. In fact, I'm not allowed to even be talking about certain aspects of it because I have a gag order. Think of it. I'm the Republican nominee. I was the president, and I'm leading the current Democrat by a lot. And I have a gag order from a local judge that was appointed by the Democrat Party. A local judge. He's a local person, and he is appointed. And he put a gag order on me. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
While you're campaigning.
While I'm campaigning, like you just mentioned a question that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Right.
Can you imagine? I'm the Republican nominee, and I'm not allowed to talk because a local judge from New York, appointed by Democrats, said I can't talk about it. It's so unfair. And then he gives a jury charge. Nobody's ever heard of a charge like this. He gave instructions to the jury. And by the way, the jury happened to be in a location that was almost no Republicans. You understand that?
Yeah,
too?
it's 87-13 in the last 2 elections, Republican. And I know you can't talk about it. I'm not under a gag order. I do know that the number 3 person in the Department of Justice took a pay cut and went down in stature to go to a state job and become one of the lead prosecutors in this case. But yet they say, hey, Dr. Phil, why are you saying that President Biden needs to stop all of this? It's a state case. That's exactly why I'm saying it. Don't be naive, people. Understand that there's a power play going on here.
It's controlled by the White House and the DOJ, 100%.
You know, Gerard Baker wrote in Wall Street Journal today, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, what do we say to those people that are rejoicing over reducing law to the status of a weapon in the hands of the dominant political power? Because that's what's happening right now. It's become a weapon, and that's not what it's intended for. That's not what we need to be doing. I mean, let's let the people decide these, right?
That's right. That was a very good statement in the Wall Street Journal. I read that this morning, and it's so true. I mean, it's so accurate. They've weaponized to a level. They are trying to affect the election by demeaning, hurting in any form. And by the way, I think after the election, the hatred's great enough that they'll go, but with much less enthusiasm. This is about November 5th, which I think is going to be the most important day in the history of our country. If we don't turn this around, we're not going to have a country left anymore.
Well, we're a country of laws, right? I mean, and that's what's made us so orderly. That's what's allowed us to progress forward. And there's something that are called hornbook laws or black letter law that is just, these things have just been around so long. And these were violated in your case, one right after the other. For example, you don't let someone that has been charged in the same case as someone else, and they made a plea deal and said, okay, I'm guilty of doing this because they were intimidated into doing it. The lawyer in your case, we don't even need to speak his name, he bartered around out from under 65 years, looking at 65 years of imprisonment down to 3 years and 2 years on this case and a tax case. So went from 65 years down to 5 years in exchange for giving them testimony against you. That's not supposed to come in, but it did. Pecker making a deal, a non-prosecution agreement. That's not supposed to come in, but it did. That got into the jury box. They got to hear all of that. And so they say, well, you know, if we're not down here for the reasons they're saying, then we need an alternative explanation, which they're not allowed to get, because your expert witness that was going to come in and say, as a former chairman of the Election Commission, was going to say this was looked at, there's no issues here. They didn't allow that person to talk, to testify. And I'm looking at this saying, how is the jury supposed to solve this problem if they don't have all the pieces to the puzzle?
They wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't talk to him. They didn't want to hear his testimony. They knew what he was going to say. He was going to say it was 100%. And very importantly, when they tell somebody, you're going to jail for 15 years, unless you say bad things about this guy named Trump. Okay? Now, in all fairness, we know a lot of great people, but you don't know too many that would say, I'm not going to do what they want.
Yeah.
He goes up to somebody and they say, Dr. Phil, you're going to jail for 15 years unless you say bad things about Trump. And if you say the bad things, you're not going to jail at all. In fact, we're going to make you a hero. Or you're going to go for 3 months, or you're going to go for a short period of time. How many people are there that say, you know, I'm not going to do that? There have been people.
Yeah, that's right.
And those are, in my opinion, these are great people. What they've done to people that work for me is incredible. Yeah. Incredible. The threats, the taking of a gentleman who's been with me for years and telling me he's going to jail for 15 years unless they say, and he went back to jail a second time. I guess they didn't want him to testify. I don't know what happened exactly, but the threats that they made to this man, they've destroyed his life. These are fascists. You know, these are really bad people, Phil. But who's going to do it? You're going to jail for 15 years, or you're going to go for 30 days or 40 days, or you're going to go for no time, but you have to say bad things about Trump.
Yeah, and that's intimidation. And some of these people, you look at their age, you look at their health, and for some of it could be a death sentence. And so they make a deal, and that's what I talk about. That's what I mean when I say prosecutorial abuse. Did anyone ever approach you and try to get you to make a deal, drop out of the race, make a deal here, we'll leave you alone?
No, they didn't, but I believe they would. If I would have offered that up, I think they know me well enough. I really do. But, if I didn't run, as an example, I would have never had any of these lawsuits. How about I get prosecuted on a person that I have no idea who she is? I have no idea who she is. I have to pay $91 million. And that judge was just as bad, just as corrupt, a corrupt judge. I have to pay $91 million to a woman. I have no idea who she is. She wrote a book and she made a statement in the book. And you know that case. That case is a disaster. And then but I have no idea who she is. And they said I did things. These people are corrupt and in some cases incompetent, but it's such an honor to have somebody like you see it and see it so clearly. And I knew that, I remember that years ago you were helping Oprah out, and she was sued and it was having a big impact on her.
Mad cow.
And I thought it was great. And Oprah used to really like me. She was here many times. Yeah. She loved my key lime pie. We have key lime pie, and she loved a lot of things about Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. And Roger King, as you know.
Yeah, we were here for the funeral for Roger King.
Correct, long time ago. It's the only funeral we've ever had at Mar-a-Lago. I said, maybe we can do a new business here. Yeah. We'll operate as a funeral parlor. But it was one of the most beautiful funerals in the ballroom behind us. And he was a great guy. And Oprah's terrific. But once I announced I was running, and I said, we have to have strong borders, we have to have this, we have to have that, we've sort of lost contact, as the expression goes. But I remember when you were very much involved in helping Oprah. And that's really the first thing I thought when you called about this horrible witch hunt that, in all fairness, they've had going against me for years.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's been time and time again. And that was another black letter law that you just don't do. The judge tells you, okay, you can testify, but I'm going to allow them to ask you about this person that you now owe $91 million. I'm going to allow them to ask you about this other case. I'm going to allow them to ask you about 10 contempt citations that I've given you. I'm going to allow them to ask about all that stuff. What does any of that have to do with the matters at hand? And the answer is zero. That gets into the jury box if you take the witness stand. Again, that is black letter law. You can't let in unrelated things that have more prejudicial impact than probative nature. That just doesn't happen, but it happened 1, 2, 3 things right in a row, right. And that gets into the jury box.
If you testify, they'll be able to ask you about all these different things. And by the way, if you say one thing if you say it was a beautiful day, as I remember it, and it was raining out, we're going to indict you for perjury.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I have a lot of lawyers that are friends and this and that. I had probably 25 guys over the course of a couple of months say, whatever you do, don't testify, because you'll say something that's a little bit off, and you will be indicted for lying, for perjury. These are evil people. These are sick, evil people.
Oh, I would have thrown myself in front of your car to keep you from testifying.
No, I know. I wanted to so badly. And by the way, I would have loved to have testified about those things because it was so corrupt and so horrible. But he wouldn't have allowed me to answer the questions properly. No. And so I would have loved to have testified. I wanted to. I'm telling you, they had to hold me back. But every lawyer that came, they'd always start to say, by the way, I'm a friend of yours, don't testify. And they saw what he was doing. They can ask you about like anything. They can do nothing to do with this case. All of these outside things. And it was really an unfair trial. There's a very brilliant judge in Florida that's holding the government. It looks like, she's looking into what happened because, they raided Mar-a-Lago. Right. And they took stuff out by the satchel. They took bags and bags of stuff. And I said, what are they taking? Are they saying what they're taking? Because they can add things. They can add the nuclear codes in there. They say, hey, he had the nuclear codes. And this was all stuff that under the Presidential Records Act, I'm allowed to do. By the way, Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stand trial, but he could be president. Think of that. He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no this, got no that. He's incompetent. Basically, they're saying he can't stand trial due to incompetence, but he can run for president. What's going on?
Yeah.
What are we missing here?
Yeah, it makes everybody uncomfortable about that state of affairs. And what I was concerned about with everything that happened in this New York trial is one of the big myths is that the burden of proof lies with the prosecution. Mm-hmm. That is the law. But I can tell you, after years and years and years of trial, the truth is that the jury sits there and says, I'm looking at all this, and if we're not down here for the reason they say we're down here, somebody needs to give me an alternative explanation of why we are down here. So if we're not down here because of what the prosecutors are telling us, then what's the alternative story? What's the alternative explanation? And when you get muzzled in the way that this judge muzzled this case, they're sitting there saying, what's the rest of the story? You're not allowed to testify because you're in jeopardy if you do. They let all of this other stuff in that should never get into the jury box. And so, the scales get tipped. And it gets very, very difficult to get even one juror because there's not an alternative story that if you could tell without being in peril, if you can tell without being intimidated, it would be a very different situation. The burden legally is on the prosecution. But logically with the jury...
You're guilty until proven innocent.
That's exactly the truth.
I can tell you that's the truth with me.
That's how it plays out. And I did a focus group about this when I did a show on this on Merritt Street. And I had 250 people in, did a focus group, and I said, and overwhelmingly the people were in your favor. But I found those that had questions, and I said, what is your question? They said, where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah. I didn't hear the other part of it.
I'm sitting here, and you've asked me indirectly a couple of questions. They're so simple to answer. I'd love to answer. And yet if I do, this guy's he's willing to throw you in jail, okay? This is an appointed judge, acting. He's an acting judge, appointed. And he's willing to throw you, and he's so conflicted. It's so sad. But you do things for your country. And I view it, I think if my country weren't involved, because people say, the two questions, I get these questions from very tough guys like you, the biggest guys on Wall Street, the people that you read about, but they're tough men and women. But I have the question asked often is number one question I get, how do you stand it? How do you do it? How do you get up in the morning and put your clothing on and go to work? I do get that because people don't envy it. And the other one I get is, will they do it again? Meaning, will they cheat? Will they do it again? Will it happen again?
Well, I have a different question than that how question. My question is why. I understand how. I know you got a thick skin. You're not one of those people that's afflicted with the need to be loved by strangers. I get that.
I think that's true.
My question is not how do you do it. My question is why do you do it? Why do you, 'cause let's face it. I mean, you're a billionaire. You got a great family. you're a very dedicated father. People may not see this in you a lot because you keep that kind of private.
And that.
But
Now you're going on raids with people who are literally separating families. Explain
now
that to
that's
me.
bullshit.
That's
Now-
not bullshit.
Now you're, oh no,
They're
is.
not separating families?
No, well, look,
Of course,
but what
Nate-
you're talking about, I was hearing you in your monologue saying you've got these ICE agents with mask on.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you why they have their mask on. Because we actually have legislators who passed laws, and now they're doxing them. They're putting their names,
Yes, that's
their
wrong.
pictures, their addresses of their families. So, of course, they're wearing masks so they don't get outed. They didn't make that law. They're just, what do you expect them to do? Just not do their job? I don't like that law at all.
If you don't like it, why are you going?
No, they don't really understand the real Trump. I want to do it. And he did the nicest interview, talked about things that nobody ever asked me. And a lot of people watched it. I was a little surprised. He's got his own network, and he's become seriously rich. He said, I'll put it on Merit. I said, what the hell is Merit? He said, that's my network. I said, well, I did it as a favor for him, but it turned out to be a favor for me because so many people, millions and millions of people watched it. Would you like to say a few words, or are you shy?
No, I'll speak.
Let's go.
Mr. President, I can't tell you, first off, how proud I am to see religion coming back to the White House. God bless you. God bless you for doing this. And let me tell you, it's not a popular thing to do in America right now. And Speaker Johnson is here, and you know he's a man of religion, but you know, I've sat with President Trump with no cameras around, nobody listening, nobody watching. And I'm telling you, this is a man of deep faith, a man of deep conviction. And this is a man that wants this country to have a heart and have religion. And God bless America for giving us President Donald Trump. And when nobody's listening and nobody's looking, this man cares about every single person in America, independent of race, color, creed, whatever, and it comes from the heart with him. And I am proud to call him my president, and God bless you, Mr. President.